You expecting Matt to come? Were you expecting Matt?
I haven't heard anything from
Oh,
him.
either way. Welcome, everybody. Good evening. And like to ask you to help me open the meeting by the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As you can see, we have a few members missing this evening. So I'm going to ask that Ms. Reidenbaugh be a voting member tonight. Okay, so that will be 5. All right, first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our last meeting of August 14th. Did anybody have any additions or corrections? If not, I'm ready for motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend the meeting minutes as presented for August 14th, 2024.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Tedder, seconded by Ms. Reidenbaugh, and that we approve the minutes of the August 14th meeting as submitted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And
I abstain.
because of absence, 4-0-1. Okay. All right, we have 4 action items this evening. The first one is Acadia Real Estate Holdings Zoning Ordinance Text Amendment. You're on. Yeah, please use the microphone so we can have it for the recording. I'll just make a comment. Anybody that's going to speak tonight needs to make sure they have signed in on the ledger here in the front table.
Evening, my name's David Schutte. I'm with the law firm of Troutman Pepper Hamilton Sanders LLP. We represent Acadia Real Estate Holdings LLC and its parent company, Acadia Healthcare Company, Inc., which is based in Franklin, Tennessee. Acadia is one of the nation's largest behavioral health care providers. And I'll just give you a little background on this. Acadia has property at 3040 Industrial Drive in the township under agreement. It's an old industrial building. And about a year ago or so, applied for a special exception before the zoning hearing board to request a use not otherwise permitted to allow for the property to be used as a drug and alcohol rehabilitation facility on one half and a methadone clinic, which is a permitted use on the other half. And the zoning hearing board denied the application for the special exception. Following that, a land use appeal was filed with the Court of Common Pleas of Lancaster County, and we started then negotiations with the township's attorney and the township staff on amending the zoning ordinance to allow for the use that we're looking at using the property for. As a result of a couple months of meetings with the township's attorney, township staff, and some informal meetings, legal but informal meetings with the supervisors, we came up with the ordinance that's before you this evening that permits for what we're calling a inpatient rehabilitation facility and defines what an inpatient rehabilitation facility is as a residential inpatient non-hospital facility for the short term, 30 days or less, treatment or counseling for addictions and substance abuse, including drugs and alcohol, and provides that use is permitted by right in the enterprise zone, which is where the industrial drive property is located. It provides a maximum building area of 13,750 square feet. And then includes in the zoning ordinance a number of special use regulations, which will be in section 275.2, adding section 000, which has about 10 performance criteria that need to be met for the facility, many of which, most of which have been suggested by your staff and your attorney and through the discussions with the other stakeholders involved, all of which Acadia can meet with this facility, and most of which are really geared toward public safety and security of both this building and the surrounding properties. And so we're here this evening to answer any questions. With me is Brett Lecklider, who is one of the directors at Acadia Healthcare and is also one of the local directors here. So he lives in Lebanon County and works out of their Harrisburg facility. So he will be very involved in this development as well. And we're here to answer any questions and ask for the Planning Commission to recommend approval of this text amendment to the Board of Supervisors at their meeting next week.
Discussions?
Can you throw up a zoning map so we see where the other enterprise zone properties are?
The properties in
Is
blue.
purple or that bluish deep? Okay.
Okay.
What's the sliver on the far left? I can't think of what that property is.
Over here,
Down, no, that's Champ Boulevard there, but down right to the right of your hand now. What's that property?
the Stony Battery warehouses.
Oh, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, okay.
So clarify for me, Nate, is this a new use or is it already defined in the ordinance?
This is a new use.
So it's a totally new use. Okay, therefore it's not permitted or excluded anywhere
Correct.
by the ordinance. Okay.
That was the special exception that we were
Yeah.
going for. And I think the reasoning of the zoning hearing board was that there's an existing use. However, the one of the restrictions of that use, the definition of that use was less than 6 patients. And the facility we're looking at here will have more than patients.
That's not very many.
That's not many.
No.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Nate, did the LCPC provide you a review of this request yet?
They have not yet.
Okay. I just wondered what their thoughts were.
submission Timelines don't really
Yeah.
match up with.
I don't see them having an issue with this. I just wondered if it was received.
Yeah, let's see. You scroll that up just a little bit. I'm looking at the blue, which I think is the enterprise on the bottom of that screen. Yeah, so that's,
It's over there in that Centerville Industrial Park area,
no,
isn't it?
down, well, down. That, all that?
That's it.
Yeah, there's 30 going
Oh,
through.
Columbia Avenue's way back in there.
You can see Old Tree Drive coming.
Backs
across.
into,
Yeah.
Lime Springs, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's not really near a lot of residential. kind of
No,
thing.
they've got something.
And they
about
have
Separation,
Quite a few number of
500 feet or something like that.
various separation distances in there from other facilities. Daycare facilities, schools, residential facilities.
Does anybody in the audience have any question or input on this plan or this request? Anybody online?
No one on Zoom.
Okay. So if there's no further questions, we can make a recommendation to the supervisor.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we recommend to the supervisors adoption of the Acadia Real Estate Holdings zoning ordinance text amendment, subject to staff and engineer comments.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Rohr, seconded by Mr. Detter, that we recommend adoption of the Acadia Real Estate Holdings zoning ordinance text amendment by right in the enterprise zone. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That would be unanimous, then.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, see you, Dave.
All right, next up is a subdivision land development plan or ordinance amendment, sorry. Having to do with the amount of dedicated land in lieu of, right?
Yeah, so.
Two things, two portions.
What? I gave you a printout. I believe what was originally in your packet had an erroneous amount for the acres per dwelling unit. The printout updates that. But in general, the way it's calculated currently, there's no defined formula on how to figure out the fee in lieu of. And we were looking at ways to fix that. This proposed amendment does that. It gives us a formula to figure it out. It's fairly minor change.
My only question was towards the end of that, where you talk about the formula and so forth, and if it hasn't been sold within 2 years or something like that, then you use the appraisal, an
Mhm.
appraisal. Just kind of curious how that appraisal works, because I know once you put something on land, the value of the land goes down. And so is it based on what that current land is or before it was developed? I've seen this like with my house, okay? I paid a lot more for my lot than it's assessed at right now because it's already got something on it. It's not worth that much. So I'm wondering how that affects commercial appraisals or assessments. Maybe Ann would be great to answer that question for us.
That's actually a good question. I'm not entirely sure.
And is usually typically significantly assessed lower than the appraised value.
Mhm.
Yes. So I guess that's why my question is, how does an appraiser then come in and say what it would be worth?
Mm.
If you just go to assessed value, then you're talking about, I think, like an order of magnitude difference.
Right.
So that's my question, concern.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry
not sure.
that-
I'll have to look into that one. I know the language that we got from that is fairly standard across most municipalities.
Okay. Well, then they must have figured it out. It was work for them.
Can you talk a little bit about how the quantity of land per dwelling unit was decided? When I compared to 4 or 5 other municipalities in the area, this is significantly higher.
It is at the high end.
So when I look at that, just like, why are we higher? How we get to the number?
The number we went back and forth with the recreation group, which is 2 of the board members, and this is a number that they chose.
And I think we've had some discussions on this sort of topic before, when you talk about park and open space. They can't give you all the floodplain stuff, right? It's gotta be
There are
usable, it's gotta be
limitations,
usable
yes.
land, right?
There's a percentage, I believe, that is allowed to be, floodplain, stormwater, areas, but for the most part, it has to be usable land.
Are there also limitations on grade then too?
Say again?
Are there also limitations on grade so that it's like buildable? So it's not something like this?
On a hillside.
Steep slopes.
I believe so. I don't think that was changed, and I believe we currently have a. So there is an area in the ordinance that talks about areas not accepted or not acceptable for dedication, and that isn't changing.
Yeah, I think it's good that, the applicants know that there's sort of a formula and not just the supervisors throwing a number out of the air. So, because I think one applicant could say, oh, somebody got it for less, and how did you come up with that? So, so I think this is a good improvement. I mean, I'll let the supervisors figure out exactly how they want the formula to be, because we usually don't set that amount here, but.
Well, it's not going to be a decision to be made. It's gonna be a formula.
Well, it has some leeway in it, though. It's calculated in accordance with that, but they could still have a little leeway.
You think so? Okay.
I would
It's
read it
not
that
to say
way.
the number won't still be negotiated a little bit. It just gives us a very
Okay.
solid
A
starting point.
base.
Okay.
So,
The only thing that's not is this number. That's the only, that's the static.
point zero
The
five.
0.055 is the static one.
Just to give you a
Anything else?
perspective, the average in Lancaster County is probably 0.03. There's some that are 0.02. The highest one I could find is 0.05.
Okay.
0.05 was the highest that we had found as well.
So the average is more like 0.03. It's a pretty significant increase.
I guess we value park and open space more than others, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe doing this a little later than some others, so it may be based on earlier calculations and different stormwater calculations too. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the large subdivisions that would cash in on that 0.55 is small and gone now, so.
Does anybody in the audience have any input on this subject? No, okay. There's no further discussion. We need a motion to make a recommendation to the supervisor.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to recommend adoption of the subdivision and land development ordinance text amendment, amending section 265-7.6 park and open space as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by, excuse me, Mr. Detter, seconded by Ms. Reidenbach, that we recommend adoption of the subdivision and land development ordinance text amendment, township file number 24-13.01, amending the park and open space ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So So that would be unanimous then. All right, next up is 1185 Enterprise, waivers and final plans.
Good evening, Steve Gergley with Harbor Engineering, here with Rob Strathmeyer from Warfel Construction. We were here with a sketch plan back, I think, in the spring for this property, 1185 Enterprise Road. It's captive air. It's a research and development facility and offices for their operation here. And they have operations all over the country. And this plan was prepared by Stocks Engineering out of North Carolina. They've engaged us to help guide them through the process, to help provide representation and sort of help them navigate the land development process. And Warfel Construction will be the general contractor on the property. So this is very similar to what we presented at the sketch plan. It's a building addition on the northeast side of the property, or the northwest side of the property rather. As the dark gray area shown on the plan north, and then they're also expanding the parking closer to Enterprise Road to increase the parking volume on the site to 75 parking spaces. Stormwater management plan was also prepared. There's a subsurface infiltration bed partially underneath the parking area in the front of the property. Public water, public sewer, no real significant increases in demand. They're increasing from about 25 to 37 employees, so it's not a very significant increase, and they are running a fire suppression line into the building. This has been through a couple of rounds of comments with DMA. I think the letter that we have at this point is relatively clean. There's a few small housekeeping and a few little cleanup items, but nothing that would affect the plan design at this point. Happy to answer any questions that you have. We are asking for 4 modifications and deferrals. We're asking briefly a modification for surveyed existing features within 200 feet. We're doing 150 feet. We're asking for a sidewalk deferral along Enterprise Road. There's 2 sections, one from the subdivision land development ordinance, and then also a deferral of street widening, curbing, and sidewalk from the streets and subdivision ordinance with the condition that a fee in lieu of be paid for milling and overlaying to the center line, which the applicant agrees with. And we're also asking for a modification of landscape strip requirements for certain areas of the property based on existing conditions and existing landscaping that's both on the property and off the property. So the landscaping we provided is adjacent to the improvements, and then where it's not provided, there are other features that would prevent additional landscaping from happening, or there's existing landscaping just off the site that meets the requirement. And all of those are recommended for approval by DMA. The one condition for the landscaping is that if any off-site landscaping or existing landscaping were to die, then the applicant would need to replace that on their own property with something equivalent to essentially fill the gap, which again, we're agreeable to that condition as well. So. If there's any questions?
Which portion is the off-site screening?
Can you possibly go to the next page with the landscaping? I think it's sheet 4. So, okay, so we're providing landscaping in this area here. There's actually, this is residentially zoned here to the west. So we're increasing that. There actually is a significant amount of offsite landscaping, but we are providing the buffer here. Along the northern part of the property, there's a lot of large mature spruce trees that are in place there. Along the east side of the property, there's the existing building. There's a stormwater conveyance pipe and underground electric line in this area. The parking area that's being expanded is here. So we're providing additional landscaping buffering here. Providing, of course, the street trees and landscaping requirements that are required for the parking area. And then the area back here, there's some landscaping here. There's some larger pine trees here, and then there's a fence and some storage area for the property adjacent. I think they may have removed some landscaping in the last couple of years here, but no proposed improvements are being proposed in this area by Captive Air.
Thank you. Again, is there anybody else in the audience that would like to be heard? No, okay, and nothing on, I assume?
No one on Zoom.
No, okay. All right, any further questions from the commissioners? Okay. Then we have 4 modifications that we need to act on.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We recommend to the supervisors approval of modification listed as number 1 and conditional approval of modifications 2 through 4, subject to staff and engineer comments.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Rohr, seconded by Mr. Bolte, that we recommend approval of modification number 1 and conditional approval of modifications 2 through 4 for the 1185 Enterprise Captive Air Project, subject to staff and engineers' comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That would be unanimous. And then we need a motion for the final plan itself.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We recommend to the supervisors approval of the final plan, subject to staff and engineer comments.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Rohr, seconded by Ms. Reidenbach, that we recommend approval of the final plan for 1185 Enterprise Captive Air Project, subject to staff and engineer comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That would be unanimous as well.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. And the fourth plan is for 5 Holland Street subdivision plan. What's your head when you turn around?
I'm sorry?
What's your head when you turn around? You
Oh,
just
yes.
missed the corner, you just
Thank
missed the
you.
corner on that
I
side.
should have brought my hard hat. Good evening, Dave Miller with Ritu. So, thank you this evening for listening to this presentation for 5 Holland Street. Kevin Ember with Ritu is the project manager on this project, but he fell ill, so I am taking his place this evening, but he's online to jump in if I say anything incorrectly. And then also Peter Stengel from Vista Block is here with us this evening as well. So this project at 5 Holland Street, you have seen this before as a sketch plan, if you will recall. And in the future, that land development project will move forward, but because of financing and sales, it was decided to go forward with the subdivision process now, get that done, knowing that the land development will take a little bit more time. So that's why we have this plan before you this evening. And our request is to get a recommendation from you of approval of the subdivision plan. So again, this is subdivision plan only, no improvements are proposed. We have a letter from DMA September 6th of this year. And there are 3 waiver requests that are referenced in the letter that we can speak to. And we have no concerns with meeting the technical comments other than that. As a background, with the creation of this second lot, this is roughly a 30-acre parcel being subdivided into 2 lots. The existing use that will be on lot 2 is Klein Services, and that will maintain about a 4.5-acre parcel, lot number 2 here. And then the remaining 25 acres will be used for the car dealerships that you have seen in the past.
Just little hatched areas. Right.
As part of that,
Access.
the Holland Street will be extended that with the land development in order to provide access to this second lot. Right now, without that, it would be a landlocked property. So part of this is an agreement in the future to extend that road to the property. It'll be the extension will be private. Right now, Holland Street is a township road, but the extension through lot 1 through lot 2 will be privately maintained. The waivers or modifications that we're asking for is related to that extension. One is the width of the right of way. Rather than 50 feet, which would be the township standard, we're requesting a variable width right of way of anywhere from 35 feet to 65 feet. And the reason for that is, right now, that would match the existing right of way to the west, which is 40 feet. And then as you get to the end there, it widens, kind of matching the right of way for 283. Again, it's going to be a private right of way under private maintenance and ownership. So we're asking for that variable right of way. And then also a cartway width of 24 feet as opposed to the 26 feet. Again, that would match existing, but also because of utilities, existing conditions out there that would create a conflict with a 26-foot wide. So we believe that 24 feet will be more than adequate for the use. So, so those two waivers or modifications, I should say. And then third is a waiver for the provision of providing sidewalks along that private street as well. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Again, the rest of the letter we can comply with.
So this is a plan question. Where is the building that will be taken down after, that is too close to the new property line?
That's this building.
Oh, the old barn. Ah. Okay, explain to me the agreement for the removal of that
So,
happens when?
That-
What triggers that?
Yeah, so that agreement is in the process. The applicant is working with the township staff and the solicitor on those details. And there will be, if the land development, so these buildings will be demolished at some point, the structure and this one as well. I'm sorry, the garage as well. If the land development does not move forward within a certain period of time, then those buildings will be demoed to remove that non-compliance, that non-conformity to the ordinance. So the timing exactly has not been established yet. That agreement will be finalized prior to recording of plans. But at this time, those details have not been worked out.
But not prior to recording the subdivision? Or
But prior to, yes.
prior to
The
recording the
agreement will
subdivision?
be,
Okay,
finalized prior to recording the subdivision.
okay. What are they used for now? Buildings? Okay, just storage. There's no other businesses in them. It's just Klein storage. Okay.
Just wondering what happens when township's snowplow goes down there and runs into the line that says this is a private street? Do they just leave it piled right there, or does there need to be a cul-de-sac to get the snow off? Okay. You say there has not been, but there should be, I think. Yeah, something that,
Yeah,
I doubt.
and that's another agreement, another document that has to be finalized is the ownership, the maintenance responsibilities between the two lot owners. And so there'll be a right-of-way agreement between those two parties.
So that would all be part of this subdivision plan and would be taken care of before recording, like you said. Just like the tearing down the barns, is that right?
Yes, because this plan creates this right-of-way.
Yeah.
for the extended road.
Okay.
Like, would the township want to just vacate that part of Holland? I mean,
How long? is
Yeah,
it?
what prevents?
it's not very long, but
No, the part that. the part
Well,
that's
this will be
attached to
private.
this. This is private. What about how far does it go the other way?
You're talking the whole way out to.
Goes all the
just
way.
goes out to Prospect Road there.
But how
it's
far
not
is
that
How
far.
No?
I don't know what it is, quarter mile?
Depends if the adjacent property owner wants to take it, I guess.
Yeah.
They may not.
Oh.
want it.
Kleins,
Kleins.
yeah, there's an Myers in there.
Well.
What prevents like the private access drive from getting gated and keeping emergency services from being able to pass through, from plowing vehicles being able to turn around? What prevents those problems?
That would be part of the agreement. Yeah, that would. Emergency vehicles, if that were to happen, there'd have to be a breakaway gate or something along those lines, but we don't foresee that.
I think in the past, the townships required knockbox type stuff on the gate or give the emergency providers a key if there's a padlock on it.
That climbs over those two big buildings.
So I forget, when the road comes in off of Prospect, what's the name of it there? It's not Holland at that point.
Chickies.
Chickies, and then turns into Holland. Cause Holland used to go across the bridge to Salunga
Right.
when it went the whole way through. With the sharp bend and,
Two sharp
Yeah.
ends.
yeah.
Continues on the other side there too.
Becomes Spokane. Or the old Spokane.
Yeah, I forget where Spooky Nook ends, what, at the highway, and then it turns into
So-
Prospect, I forget.
So it used to come, did Spooky Nook used to come all across to Holland?
Before 283,
Because it looks like they're lined up there.
I just knew Holland used to come off of Harrisburg Pike, go over
Yeah,
that old
over that
railroad
old
bridge.
Came down
And
by
then the
Jacob
other end
Lane.
of it is what is now Holland over there. And I think that did probably connect to,
This does look
Spooky Nook.
Looks like Spooky Nook lines up. Holland.
yeah, I
That
think it
diagonal
did
there.
connect.
Sixties, right?
Predates me.
Well, 283 is, whatever.
That's
Doesn't
right.
matter.
My dad was dating when it 283 was put in.
Is that right?
That was the cool thing, to take your date on the dirt road and drive up to Harrisburg while they were building it. You know, I won't say what you did with your date when you were driving.
Yeah. That was in a car or a buggy?
In a car. My dad's not that, he wasn't that old. Dad was born in 28, so I don't know
Oh,
what
was he?
year the road was built.
28, really?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, I suppose nobody else in the audience has any comment about this plan.
Make modification of the structure, but the barn and the garage, they're completely vacated, they're not even stored.
Oh, okay.
And I assume nobody's got their hand up on the Zoom.
No,
Nobody's got their hand up on Zoom. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess my question was more, what if this gets delayed, those buildings are gonna sit there forever?
They're
But-
already sitting there.
Mm. Too close to the property line in the future. All right,
All right, so we actually only have two modifications to act on tonight. Number 3 said it was, the engineer said the request did not seem to be required. So we're just talking about the design standards for the street and the sidewalks at this point, which are both recommended for conditional use.
Just for
conditional.
clarification, and we've reached out to Scott Hain to get a clarification on that. Number one of the comment references the two sections, one
yeah.
being the right of way and the other
And one's the
being,
roadway width.
the cartway width. So that would be the two modifications,
three.
and then
Oh,
comment
there's
number
actually three.
two
But-
is
but-
the
yeah.
sidewalks.
The first one.
From the
has those two
Saldo.
sections, But they just. lump
I
them.
believe I believe comment three is his reference to the street and sidewalk ordinance that he's saying is not applicable. But the waiver from the Saldo, 265-84A 1B, would be applicable, and that's what we're requesting the waiver for. It's a little
Yeah,
confusing.
there are
but
three,
There
yeah.
are technically three. So
Okay.
the right of way, cartway, and sidewalk.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. All right, let's see. So we actually got two under number one.
Correct.
Okay. Somebody want to take a shot at that motion?
Sure, I will.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend conditional approval of modification waiver requests 1A, 1B, and 2 for the Holland Street project, Township File 240502, subject to all staff and engineering comments.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Detter, seconded by Mr. Rohr, that we recommend conditional approval of modifications 1A, 1B, and number 2 for the 5 Holland Street project, subject to staff and engineer comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? That would be unanimous.
Thank you very much.
We still have a
But
motion.
we still have the plan. You want the plan approved too, don't you?
Oh, yeah, oh, yes.
You're welcome.
I was too anxious.
No football on tonight, doesn't matter. All right, so the subdivision plan itself.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to recommend approval of the subdivision plan for 5 Holland Street Township Project File number 24-0502, subject to all staff and engineering comments.
I'll second it.
Okay, once again, we have a motion by Mr. Detter, seconded by Mr. Rohr, that we recommend approval of the subdivision plan for the 5 Holland Street project, subject to all staff and engineer comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay,
Now I thank you.
now you can go.
Have a good night.
All right, was there anything under old business that any of the commissioners wanted to bring up, or Nate or
I have nothing.
township manager or anybody?
I'll just say, I referenced my dad. Jim would know my dad.
Oh,
He
yeah.
served as a planning commissioner here for,
Yeah.
I don't know, 25, 30 years.
Yeah, he was on when I joined, so.
Yeah.
Were there any questions on the project update that Nate sent out? Okay, if there's no further comments or actions, or anybody want to talk about anything? Nothing? Okay, meeting's adjourned. 7:45.
Pretty good time for a 4-item agenda.
We.
I believe this year they had a 9-minute meeting.
Yeah.
45 minutes is pretty good for 4 items.
Yeah.
What's your shortest supervisor meeting?
Really?